Most men are taught to outrun death, to distract themselves from it, to armor up against the idea that life is fragile. But what if the very thing we avoid thinking about is the key to becoming more courageous, more honest, and more alive, especially when life forces transitions and losses we did not choose? Welcome to Mind Over Masculinity, where we explore what it really means to be grounded, emotionally mature, and resilient as a man in today's world. Today, I'm joined by Seth Clark, an executive coach, ordained Christian minister, and doctoral scholar studying meaning making in the face of mortality. Now, Seth has spent years walking alongside people at the edge of life and death, from literally border communities to hospital beds, and now he helps leaders confront loss, transition, and purpose with courage. And I invite you, all of you, in this conversation, and we'll be exploring how mortality awareness can become kind of a source of strength rather than fear, and how befriending death can actually help men lead and live more fully. So, what an ironical statement to begin with, Seth. It's a pleasure to have you here in the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Likewise, Seth. And, because you, I believe, have lived very close to death for much of your life. And what I mean by that is you have seen many people go through those transitions. So I'm curious as to when did you realize that death was not just an ending, but something that could teach you how to live?
Hmm. Well, I don't know if I realized the second part, but the first part is I remember being on the swing set, in
Mm-hmm.
backyard and in the U.S. where I grew up, and it was a summer day, and my grandmother was dying. She was actively dying. I knew that she only had a day or two left to live because she had had her second stroke. The first one made it so she could not talk. The second one was going to take her away from us. Right. And I was there and I was 8 years old, same age as my son right now, actually. And Grandma Iona was dying. And I had to sit with that and think about, what does it mean that this person that I love is going away? What does that mean just kind of cosmically? What does that mean for me? What does that mean? I'm sitting on a swing set, a place that's supposed to be fun. Right. And so I think that that opened the door. That opened the door to this idea. And I think for a lot of us, great grandparents or grandparents, when they die, we start thinking about how people that we know, even if they're far away in terms of age,
Mm.
they're not here forever. And as we age, as we grow up, right, it's not just our great grandparents or our grandparents, it becomes our parents and our friends. Right. And for some of us, if there's tragedy, it's people closer to us in age or people closer to us in our family earlier on. Thankfully, that wasn't me, but many people experience that. And so for me, it was just an awareness more and more, especially as I stepped into doing more ministry with people. And then especially as I moved into hospice chaplaincy, right? Sitting there, being present with people as they are facing their own death and as they are actively dying, is one of the most profound experiences you can have, right? You are there to
Yeah.
help usher them into something new.
Yeah. And I'm curious as to, what that experience would feel like if you would share, getting to talk to someone who's probably in the last hour of their life, or, last few days remaining. What change do you actually begin to notice developing in
Mm.
that person, right? So are they like scared, or they're kind of
Yeah.
in comfort with that truth?
It's interesting that, you know, it seems as though the way that you approached your life is similar to the way you approach your death, right? So if you're somebody who's
Mm-hmm.
nervous in life,
Yeah. Yeah. It
yep,
comes a full circle, right?
yes, you become scared at death. If you're someone who's found some sort of peace in life, you're going to be more peaceful in death. And not always, but often. And so there's this sense in which you talk to people and you can tell who more or less, I don't know if any of us are 100% ready, maybe, but more or less people are ready to go. You can tell. And it's because they made peace with who they were. They made peace with the people in their lives as much as they could. And they made peace with whatever's coming next. You know, people from different faith traditions and different philosophical schools have different ideas about what comes after death, right? And a lot of people they hold on to that, and a lot of people, you know, they don't know exactly. But whatever it is that's beyond it, this moment of death, these moments of dying, they can have that peace. And in those moments, the people who do have more confidence or more peace or more serenity around death, they there's some clarity there, right? You know, and
Right.
they're obviously not going to work. They're obviously not trying to write some big book that's going to change the world. You know, they're not interested in world peace in terms of like the things that they can do. They're
Mm.
interested in the small things, the deep things, right? There's not the broad and kind of narrow, shallow things. It's the very narrow, very deep things.
Well said. Yeah, indeed, that's a very profound experience. I would say that you have experienced for a long part, a long span of your life. I would say, and you have literally described yourself as a dead guy. I mean, and not like the death waiter try to imagine, but not because you're morbid, but I feel like because you believe that befriending death changes how we face loss. So
Yeah.
could you share your experience? Like, where do you think men learn to fear mortality instead of relate to it?
Yeah. Well, I think many cultures, and every culture is a little different, right? But many cultures basically teach men that they have to be big and tough and brave, and they have to look a certain way and act a certain way around hard things, right?
Mm,
And so part of doing that is putting on a show. Okay. And part of that show is for death is saying, I'm big, I'm strong, I'm brave, I can handle this. Right. When maybe you can, maybe you can, but underneath, you're probably not doing that work of thinking through and feeling through what's actually going on in terms of your relationship towards your death, right? How you are oriented towards your end, right? Your end of existence,
mm,
at least for this life. And so I think our cultures, they're teaching men how to look brave, how to look tough, maybe, but not how to actually do the work that is needed to really contemplate what it means to die. And I think there are older traditions that help us better, right? So
mm. Yeah.
stoicism, right? They had this practice of looking ahead towards the hard things, right? And one of those was death. Looking ahead, feeling what it's going to feel like, getting ready for it. And then too, they would often talk about how every day before is a death. The me I was yesterday is dead, already gone. So what is one more day, right? I won't be here. What is that different than yesterday's Seth, for instance, right? And then other traditions like my own Christianity. They had memento mori, right? And for remember that you will die. If you remember that you will die, you clarify what is important in this life, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that Ferrari, it might be nice, but it might be less important than the time with friends and family, the time doing good in the world, maybe even giving some of that money to those who need it more, all kinds of things, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and Seth, I've always thought about this that maybe death is the reason why life is valued so much,
Mm.
right? It's kind of a similar analogy to okay, I'm gonna put this into this perspective. So
Yes.
imagine you're driving a car, all right? My question to you would be, why do you think that we overspeed? So what's your answer to that?
Oh yeah. So if we're going too fast on the road, it's because we need to get to that place sooner, because we need to be more efficient, because we got to get stuff done.
Yeah, but if I tell you we overspeed because the brake exists, because if the brake didn't exist, you
Mm.
wouldn't be driving more than 10 miles per hour. Neither would anybody else, right?
Oh.
Um, so I think uh, it's about that life is valued, and kind of seen as a profound thing to experience and lucky to be experienced, is because of death. And if we stick with that for a second, now that you have already shared with us how witnessing real loss changed the way you make decisions or take risk in your own life, I want to ask this to uh, on a broader perspective for a person who's listening to this right now, and say if a man wants to start befriending his own mortality without becoming overwhelmed, um, where do you suggest he begins? As in, what thought do you invite him to first?
I think there's two things. First thing would be consider your death, right? Memento mori, consider it. And do it with some breaths, right? So that you can stay regulated as much as possible. But you breathe in, you think about it, you breathe out and release whatever those negative feelings are. But notice, right? Is there fear? Is there disgust? Ew, a dead body. Is there anger? Right? This is unjust. Is there sadness? Right? If you're thinking about your death, if you're contemplating it, those feelings are probably going to come up. And that's where your relationship is right now. So notice those without judgment if you can. Notice those in terms of how you are already in relationship with your death. So in order to be friends with anything or anyone, you first need to kind of figure out where you are with that other. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you have the courage to do so, write your own obituary, right? What's it going to say in the paper? What are the flyers that go to the friends and family? What are they going to say when you're dead about you at your funeral? What are they going to say? Create your own narrative about what you want it to say. Maybe what it is going to say already, but more than that, what you want it to say. And that can help clarify who you want to become as you
Yeah.
march onwards towards that final day.
Wow, I mean, what stands out to me is that the courage here isn't exactly the bravado, right? It's clarity.
Yeah.
It's kind of knowing what actually matters when the noise falls down. And I think you did a great job set to frame that. I really love how you framed that. Um, so, how does that practice actually translate into a more courageous leadership or a cleaner transition when something ends, like a role, a relationship, or an entity, right? So, I'm just trying to generalize it.
Yeah. Yeah. So if basically if you have the fortitude, the courage, the resilience to think about the worst transition that life seems to have, which is the last one, you're out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then all of these other ones, these other mini deaths, if you will, you can say, you can put them in perspective and you can say, you know what, this is hard. And I can face it with similar resilience, right? I'm still alive. I'm still here. This does not feel good and it's not the end. So you can grieve, you can go through it, you can have the feelings you're going to feel. You're not pushing them down. You're letting yourself feel them. At the same time, you're not letting them take over. Right? You talked about the car. They are not taking over the steering wheel whether you're letting them or not. They're in the car with you. Whatever those feelings are around the change, around the loss, around the grief. Right? But you're going towards the destination of your choice, the story of your choice as you move ahead through that transition, through that change and loss.
Yeah, that's again answered with a lot of honesty and lived experience as well, said I could tell. So thank you for sharing such beautiful words, and I would like to, uh, you know, wrap this off maybe with kind of a very practical question around loss, because I believe it can come in any kind of shape, right? Even with awareness, it can still hit hard. But the perspective that I'm trying to bring here is that when a man feel themselves retreating back into avoidance after a setback, right? Because we know that that can happen, right? Because life is not linear, right? And so does the learnings from a loss. I mean, it comes in waves as well, right? Maybe not once at a time, but it kind of comes in waves, right? Because I have seen that, I've experienced that myself. So, what do you think helps them return back to to this work?
Yes. I think the first thing is at least an attempt to accept it, right? Whatever that pain is that we're avoiding, right? We're basically adding suffering on top of that pain that's already there, right?
Mm.
And that avoidance in trying to avoid the pain oftentimes makes the pain worse through a new second level of suffering, right? And so with acceptance, it doesn't make that initial pain easier necessarily, but it helps us to move into it and to orient ourselves to, in a sense, be in relationship with that pain in a way that says, I'm here with you, I'm holding your pain, you're not wrong, you're not fake, you're there, and you don't need to define me, you don't need to tell me who I am, right? Because that's not your job. Your job is to tell me what's going on and how I'm feeling, right? But you don't have to control me, right? And so it's like you're comforting the pain that you have, right?
Mm.
You're accepting it and holding it. You're taking agency over it gently, right? And again, as men, ooh, being gentle, I don't know, but that is strength, that is courage, that is resilience to gently hold your own pain in a way that says, this is real and I don't need to escape it. This is my lived reality right now.
Yeah, and again, on the brighter side as well, as you come across different kind of losses in your life, Seth, I also think it really adds on to that acceptance level, right? Because your acceptance level as a child, as a 20-year-old, is not the same as a 40-year-old, right?
Right.
You would not be crying to the same thing that you did back at 20. So
Right.
I think again, it's something that comes with different kind of experience, in form of losses. And someone at 20 year could be more emotionally mature than someone at 30, and that's just because he has been through more losses personally, right, in his life. So I think that's the brighter side of things, of how you can see. So ultimately, it shapes you as a person, of who you become. Right now, that experience, someone could experience it in 20, someone does in 40. I think that's what makes a difference. But I think, Seth, what I'm taking away from this conversation really is that the idea of befriending your death, right? I think it doesn't make life smaller. It kind of gives you the courage to live with depth, honesty, and purpose. So
Yes.
for me, that's what I'm taking away with today.
Hmm. Sounds like a good takeaway.
So this was for all the listeners listening to this right now, and I hope you would sit with that for a few minutes after this. And now that we are almost hitting the minute mark, Seth would quickly want to ask, for listeners who want to learn more about your work or explore this conversation further, I mean, where's the best place to find you at?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, like most professionals these days, Seth David Clark. And then it's under maintenance right now, but by the time the listeners get to it, hopefully it'll be back up. It's lifedeathandleadership.com. And so I do coaching, but I also do have courses that are going up soon. One is called Leadership Hacks from the Dead. So similar kinds of things. How do we look at our ancient history as people to help us in our own journey forward?
Wonderful. Thank you, Seth, for sharing that. And I'll include the details in the show notes for you guys, so you can check them out anytime at your own convenience. And with that, I believe we come a full circle to today's conversation. And I hope that today's conversation that stirs something in you, because I mean that was the whole point. And I want you to stay with it for a few minutes, like I said before, because I want you to understand that courage is in the absence of fear, right? It's the willingness to face what's real. And thank you for spending this time with us on Mind Over Masculinity. Until next time, keep choosing presence over armor and depth over avoidance. I'll see you in the next one.